Hey, welcome to the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute with your host, the alchemist of Indiana's Black Forest, Alan Bishop. Hey, this channel is all about home distilling and legal distilling. If you've got questions, reach out to us in the comments below, social media, or via bishopshomegrown@gmail.com. And don't forget to check out thealchemistcabinet.com. Hey, what's up, guys? Another brand new One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute talking head video. So, as you'll see in some other videos, I haven't been on a whole lot and posting a whole lot because I've been dealing with some local zoning issue stuff that's going on currently that's very concerning for my community. For those of you that know about that and have supported us in that, we really appreciate it, guys, greatly. But not here to talk about all that. I'm here as always to answer your distilling related questions, be they hobby distilling or professional distilling. And today I have a really cool email I'm going to read to you. That is an update to someone working on an Absinthe project based on the International Absinthe Project and series of videos that I've worked on with Jesse from Still It and Chase the Craft. And listen, it doesn't get much more alchemy than what I got rocking today, guys. I got a Make Alchemy Great Again hat, and I've fallen deep into the rabbit hole of Into the AM with the Absinthe inspired shirt that Jesse designed. Pretty cool stuff, right? I mean, it's awesome that I helped inspire a shirt design even in a little tiny small way. And also, I'm not sponsored by anybody. I'm not sponsored by Into the AM or anybody like that. But these shirts, super freaking comfortable. It's the first thing I did when I put this thing on was tell my wife how comfortable it was and let her touch it. This thing is soft. It's super soft, guys. Anyways, the 2025 Practical Distiller's Almanac is out now and available at thealchemistcabinet.com in the warehouse. And I'm just going to jump into this because it's a long email. There's not really a whole lot of questions in here. It's more of a statement of this guy's work. And I thought it was awesome that he shared it. So this is from Jake Boyd. So let's see. Hello, Alan. Greetings from British Columbia, Canada. My name is Jake. I've been interested in distilling since around 1989 and read everything I could find, but have only been a practicing home distiller for around 5 years now. I finally decided I had enough money and privacy to give it a go this year after some inspiration from watching Jesse's videos. There's definitely always more to learn in this hobby. I have found practical experience counts far more than book knowledge in distilling, although research does help and is necessary to get started to some degree. I agree with you. I had tried Absinthe around the time that you discussed on the podcast series with Jesse, the mid-90s, where there were several false products on the market. I did not like what I was able to get a hold of then, but it was a long time ago. This series has piqued my interest. I followed along and came up with a modification to Jesse's Belle Epoque Absinthe that I thought would more closely suit what I would want. In particular, I'm not a fan of using beet/table sugar, so I attempted to do an early Belle Epoque period recipe, pre-phylloxera. This way I could use a rectified brandy substitute instead. There is still no absinthe in my area that I think would give an accurate representation of what the flavor should be. I could only find one offering, and it's neon green in a clear bottle, so definitely not the real thing. Plus, it's fairly expensive. Because of this, I have no way to tell if what I made is an accurate representation of what a true absinthe should taste like. I'm going to put my recipe process used and thoughts on the flavor below and ask what you think. In your video from today, a couple days ago now, you were asking for questions, and I'm sure this is in your wheelhouse. I used Jesse's 1800s and 1700s videos as well as the Absinthe podcast series as a guide, trying to lean toward pre-phylloxera part of the Belle Epoque period so that I could be accurate in using a rectified brandy substitute instead of beet sugar. My idea was basically 75% 1800s and 25% 1700s, roughly speaking. Starting with my usual neutral, which is made from 30 kilograms of dextrose, 2 kilograms of quick oats mashed with 500 grams of Breeze Copper Dome Series 2-row, and 1 kilogram of raisins soaked in hot water. Mixed up to 160 liter wash with Kveik Lutra. I stripped this out to 40 liters of 40% low wines, then run it through a 3x2 inch packed column to 96% ABV for a very clean, tasting neutral. I know dextrose seems a bit expensive, but I can't stand table sugar, and large quantities of cane sugar is just as expensive and harder to come by where I live. Dextrose gives a very neutral flavor. Oats give it some body, and raisins seem to cancel out the earthy flavor from the oats. I used to just use dextrose. The distillate was neutral but very thin. Jesse mentioned oats, and you mentioned oats and raisins. I tried both, as well as mashing the oats with some high diastatic power 2-row for the extra sugar, and liked it. I use the EC1118, but find the Lutra gives it more of a smoother finish. Very little difference, but I can taste it, so I go with it despite the added cost. It's a good choice. It's good choices all around so far, man. Absolutely. I soaked 50 grams of raisins in about 3.75 liters of this neutral proof down to 40% ABV, and then heated to 60°C in an air still, let it cool naturally, and macerate 24 hours before running it until I'd collected 78% ABV total. I ran the rest out to save for next time. This produced about 1.25 liters of rectified brandy substitute at 78%. I used this recipe I came up with from watching the series. Noted per 1 liter of 78% brandy substitute multiplied by 1.25 for the rectified brandy substitute. I made 80% low rec brandy substitute, 86 grams grand wormwood. I think that's 75 grams anise seed, 50 grams fennel seed, 10 grams coriander seed. It cut off the mint and the angelica. And I do apologize, my printer sucks. So, and lemon zest. So, all seed botanicals were lightly cracked with a mortar and pestle. This was heated to 60°C in the air still, unplugged, and allowed to macerate for 12 hours. I then added water to bring it down to 40% and ran it, taking off 20 to 30 milliliters and collecting down 58%. Then I collected low wines for the next brandy substitute run down to 40%, then ran down to 10% for Blanchette. I noticed how the low wines in Blanchette had an herbal flavor but not much black licorice flavor left. Then for coloring, I haven't done it yet, waiting on a dark amber apothecary bottles I ordered to store it in, hoping it will stay green. 2.5 grams petite wormwood. It cut off again the hyssop and the lemon balm. I do apologize. Macerate 48% of the spirit. I got 1.1 liters, so that would be 528 milliliters for about an hour at room temperature. Strain and then recombine. Anyway, now that you know what I'm making and where I'm at with it, my question is about the flavor. As mentioned, I have nothing to test it against. I tried one drink of the clear spirit and was taken aback by how strong the flavor is. Don't get me wrong, it is wonderful, but I question if it is really supposed to be that strong. I took a tiny sip at 80%. It is drinkable, though not advisable at that strength, with a very strong black jelly bean flavor. Then I went in for a louche and found it has a nice opaque louche. The flavor reminds me almost exactly of black jelly bean up front, with maybe a slight hint of black pepper in the background. Very strong and surprisingly sweet enough without any sugar or sweetener other than raisins added. Maybe the lemon zest contributed to sweetness. On the back, it settles into an herbal tea-like flavor and has a slight anesthetizing, almost but not quite numbing feeling going down. It tastes pretty good. I was just shocked at how strong the black jelly bean or licorice flavor was, and wonder if I overdid that, or is it really supposed to be that way? Like I mentioned before, there is no true absinthe to taste this against in my area. You were asking for questions on your YouTube channel. I watch yours and Jesse's channels pretty much every episode. You could say I'm a fan, plus following your absinthe collaboration series over on Still It. You are definitely the one to ask. I apologize for my long-windedness. I just wanted to give you a full picture of where I am at with this recipe. I've also attached 2 pictures of louche, one and one without flash, to give you a good idea of opacity. I'll send some more pics when my dark amber apothecary bottles come in so I can share thoughts on the effect of flavor and what it looks like green. Thank you in advance for any response you provide. Kind regards. The pictures are great, by the way. It looks really, really, really nice. So, interestingly enough, typically, yes, with those Belle Epoque styles, that anise is really, really, really up front. You got to remember that the Belle Epoque, even though you went, 25% towards, the 1700 style, the Belle Epoque style and the early industrial style tended to be fairly sweet, right? So they're almost in cordial territory, even though they don't have any actual sugar added to them until you get ready to serve them, if you want to serve them. I've made a lot of very earthy absinthes, and I like the earthy thing a lot more myself. The decadent stuff with a lot of anise, it can be a little much. If I have that, it's usually after supper and it's only a glass or 2. I like to really balance that out. I might use the same amount of anise, and always green anise, never star anise. If I use star anise, it's only a very small amount. Star anise will just give more of that candy-like flavor, which I'm not a huge fan of. But I like to really focus on roots. So I like angelica root in particular. I've used some dandelion root in the past. I've used ginger root. I have used ginseng root. I like to bring that earthiness up a little bit more. And I like to really hit that lemon balm as well. Even in the maceration for the distillation, I like to hit the lemon balm. You're right, the lemon zest could have contributed to the sweetness. Definitely, big time it could have, without a doubt. And then you got to bear in mind that you have all those flavor bridges, right? So anise and mint work together, and they sort of intensify one another in a very sweet, decadent, dessert-like sort of way. you're absolutely on the right track. You're absolutely doing the right things, and your intuition was telling you exactly what you need to do in terms of the yeast that you were using, plus the base that you wanted to make your alcohol out of. And I applaud you on making your alcohol out of that base. I think that's awesome. I think you could make absinthe out of really any base that you want to, in all honesty. But if you want to balance that out a little bit, you might even look at bringing some black pepper in there, or some grains of paradise. Look at angelica root for sure. Look at some of the other herbal roots that you think that you might enjoy. I also like to add a little bit of horehound, and I also don't mind a huge proportion of grand wormwood, because I want the bitterness to cut some of that sweet back just a little tiny bit. For me, the wormwood is just as appealing as long as it's in balance as anything else that is in there. But think of those savory botanicals, right? Any savory botanical that you can think of that you think would balance out. I also don't mind to kick the coriander a little harder in the recipe quite often too, because that really sort of ups the backbone, in my opinion, and gives it, for lack of any better word, some balls and some definition, as it were. Because what does happen is if that anise gets too heavy, and this is something you plan on drinking regularly, it can be a little flabby sometimes, right? It can be incredibly decadent in small doses, and incredibly flabby in large doses, and uninteresting to some degree, especially if you're not normally used to that anise flavor, right? And so anise and black licorice, they do have very similar flavor profiles. I will say that in my time and over time of enjoying absinthe and making absinthe, I started off not liking absinthe because I don't like black licorice, or I didn't. I kind of grew to love black licorice, but I also kind of got to a point where I was really discerning the difference between black licorice and anise flavor as well. The other thing you can do is you can pump that fennel up. There's nothing wrong with even putting more fennel in than what you've put anise in. It won't hurt anything at all. Cut your anise back some, up the fennel a little bit. You're going in that savory direction. So anyways, thank you for reaching out. I really do appreciate it. I always love hearing from people who are actually, carrying out these practical experiments. And it means the world to me that you pay attention to what somebody like me in the middle of nowhere of Indiana is doing. So thank you very much, man. And I hope you have a great day. If you have any more questions, please reach out to me. I'll be glad to answer. Love you guys. Later.